Well, Tom, thank you so much for being with us. Do you want to tell us what's happened to you lately, please?
So recently, I was detoxed by the Keys Project, but just a bit of background of what happened before that. I've been helped by Keys before because I have struggled with alcoholism in the past. But more recently, I was just coming to I was just over 2 years sober, and life seemed to be going very well in a lot of ways. I seemed to have everything going for me again, but I wasn't really engaged in active recovery. I drifted a little bit from church. I hadn't left, but I just wasn't very engaged with things. And I just felt like I was getting on with my life. And past experience would have told me that that's a bit of a precarious course to be on, even when things are going very well in life terms post addiction. Not being mindful of the propensity to become addicted again if you're not sort of keeping up, maintaining certain routines and engaging with the truth about the condition. I think I really should have known better. So about 5 weeks ago, I guess it must be now, with no having had no intention to drink again, I think in a moment of madness, I just actually after I'd lost quite a lot of work due to the closure of venues with the lockdown due to coronavirus. It hadn't really panicked me that much at the time, but I was suddenly left with this huge empty space, and suddenly the delusion that I might be able to just have a quick secret drink and get away with it, and just have a nice evening on my own with a bit of food. That delusion came back, and suddenly I found myself drinking again, drinking alone in my flat, and it escalated to be as bad as it had ever been in absolutely no time. So 2 days later, I was in an ambulance. The day after that, I was in an ambulance. I felt as physically addicted as I ever had, even though I hadn't been drinking that long. That's how I felt. There was no way I could have extracted myself from that situation. And as lockdown progressed, I think there's a very good chance that I might have died on my own in that flat drinking, because I get into such a terrible sort of dependent tangle with alcohol that's my trajectory unless I'm rescued. Now I'm not really sure what the line of communication was, but I'd spoken to a couple of people from church and a couple of other friends, and somehow Keys was contacted. I'm not sure what the trajectory was there, but thankfully they, they were, and Steve, you were able to coordinate some response to actually detox me in a safe way, which is always, it's a relief, and was a relief at the time. Although I knew that I was going to have a few days of a lot of discomfort, because detoxing tends to be like that for me, and a lot of anxieties come back in. But I knew that at least I had a chance of surviving. And I think that it's also important that it's that the detox was going to be coordinated by an expert, because these things can be quite precarious, quite dangerous, can be quite easy to misjudge, and so the involvement of Keys with that support, with a safe reduction in alcohol, and then some medication to get me through the sort of critical bit of coming off alcohol altogether. Managing support so that there were people with me 24 hours a day, in fact, for the first couple of days. That was crucial. I could have, in that time, I could have easily either gone out and drunk again, bought more because I couldn't stand being a lot on my own, or alternatively just completely panicked and not being able to cope psychologically. But instead, there were people praying with me. There was, I spoke to you, Steve, a couple of times. There was all the support that I could have hoped for to get me over to get me over that critical sort of life or death point. I do consider it life or death, actually. And I don't know where else that support would have come from. I don't know of a service that is able to respond in that time. And then when it was safe to give me a little bit more to actually leave me for a few hours, there was still a bit of a rota of support, people coming in and visiting me, and and that was gradually eased up, and so I was fully supported, but able to start to get a little bit of independence back and start making my own moves once I was mentally and physically capable. Start making my own moves to looking after myself again, and that was only a matter of it was a matter of less than a week, but it seemed like at the time it was quite every day felt like a new sort of drama unfolding, and so that got me out of the that got me through the most critical point, and I'm very grateful for that. Don't know where I should go from there.
No, that's great, Tom. Well done. And tell us how things are now. To tell us a bit about your faith in this situation, and maybe you could tell us a few words about the fact that you're now going to a Keys recovery group online, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I think in terms of my faith, it has brought me back to a point of surrender to God and to God's will. It's brought me to a new point of seriousness about it. I've been a Christian for a few years, but during the time of struggling with addiction, I've actually detoxed at least a couple of times as a Christian, and I recognise that there can be an element of elation after that, a bit of a surge in faith, and I think right now there's more of a seriousness about it, as I realise how easy it is for me to veer subtly off that narrow path. Rather than it being an elation thing, I think it's made me realise the other things that I might need to change in the way I think about things and the way that I approach life, and feel very grateful to God for preserving my life and giving me that help. It's and actually in this period of lockdown, I've been doing this mostly. I haven't really had face-to-face contact with people, so it's given me more. It's prompted me more to be in prayer and to rely on the presence of God, and to actually take things in the present. To look at one day at a time, and a lot of my sort of worldly expectations for this year are out of the window because of what's going on at the moment, and that's and it's amazing to be able to feel able to respond to that in faith and with some serenity and acceptance, and I think that's largely due to what has just happened. And I have been able to go to the last few Keys meetings on Zoom, the Hailsham Keys meeting, which has been brilliant. Actually, it's been really supportive. I've got some experience of recovery meetings, either Christian or outside of the various 12-step meetings. This is a really nice forum with people at all kinds of stages and with all sorts of different wisdom, and it's just it's a relief to be in that kind of supportive group, and it really does feel. I don't feel any distance because I'm on Zoom, rather than in a physical meeting in a room with people. There's still a lot of warmth, and there's a lot of care there. So it's been really good to be able to engage with that, and that because most of the groups that are available at the moment are 12-step groups, which are fantastic, but they're not Christian. And I think I need something that also is speaks directly into to my very specific faith, which is not something that will happen in most 12-step groups, although they're fantastic in other ways.
That's so good, Tom. And I'm really pleased that you're looking to give something back at the same time.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's. I'm really looking forward to being able to do that. It's something that has been. It's something that I've done in the past, and it's been really enriching. And I think it's kind of incumbent on people who have been helped to help. I think it is a privilege to be involved in being able to support people and understand what they're going through to an extent. So yeah, it's something that I really look forward to getting involved in.
Tom, thank you very much.